Welcome to another video, A Walk with Phil, and I'm here in West Bromwich. And if you go into the Flowerpot pub down Spon Lane, you'll find a graphic map of all the 22 pubs that used to lie along Spon Lane. So what I thought I'd do today is just take you along and show you where the sites of the old pubs used to stand. It ain't so easy to find them these days because of all the layouts of the roads have all changed now, and so we'll try and find them. I'll do our best and give you a good idea as to where all these 22 pubs used to be along Spon Lane. Well, we start our journey looking for these 22 pubs, or the sites of these 22 pubs down Spon Lane, in very familiar territory here at Dartmouth Square. I've been here a few times, but just to show you, this is where Spon Lane used to begin back in the day. But now what we've got now is a newer road built in this other part of Spon Lane called the West Bromwich Ringway. But just ahead of me, just beyond this red bus, was the Dartmouth Hotel. It used to be the Dartmouth pub, and its address was officially known as number 2 Paradise Street, and it was there from 1841 and it was demolished in 1972. A famous West Bromwich Albion footballer was once the landlord and owner of the hotel, Billy Bassett. I think it was around 1872 when it became a hotel. Just here on the corner here would have been the Bull's Head. The original name of the pub when it was built here was the Boot Inn. It was 1828 when it became the Bull's Head, but that closed down in 1959. But it was a long time before it was demolished. Right, so we make our way down what would have been Spon Lane, and take you to the sites of the other pubs. Just around here would have been the Imperial Cinema. The next pub, using the graphic list, would have been just here on the corner of what was known as Thomas Street. As you can see, Thomas Street is now a sealed road, can no longer join what was then Spon Lane. The pub would have just been here on the court here, called the Cottage Spring. The Cottage Spring was there from 1868 until around 1960. Just over here would have been a road that would have skirted alongside the college. It was called Barrow Street. And in between, and just here where all this college was built, was the site of a couple of pubs. The first would have been the Steam Packet, which would have just been around here somewhere where that blue van is. The Steam Packet, and that was there from 1871 until 1966. What a name, eh? The Steam Packet. Our next pub would have been just beyond this wall, this newly built wall. It looks to me like that wall was built at the same time as when the Sandwell College was constructed. But that pub there was called the Bridge, just beyond that wall, and the bridge had been there since 1881, and it was around 1957 when that Atkinson's pub was demolished. And opposite would have been George Street, which would have been the site here of George Salter Springs. The bridge obviously so called because it was next to the railway, and this is the bridge that would have taken you over the railway line as it was then, which is now the metro. As we cross the bridge, it doesn't take long before we reach our next pub. According to the graphic map, it was there's Bell Street. Just there on the corner would have been the New Bell, And then it was in the 1960s, I believe, this M&B pub was demolished. Okay, the old bell in the early 1800s was probably around here somewhere. That disappeared in the 1960s as well. There's Watton Street and Bolton Street just there on my left ahead. Bolton Road. A lot of wires on show here, isn't there? There's Sam's Lane. This was the site of an old brewery, the Spon Lane Brewery, which closed in the 1920s. But it was around about here, just here on this corner. There was the pub called the Anchor, and that was there from 1871. And it was an M&B pub, and that closed in the 1960s as well, I believe. Now, it was just over here, according to the graphic map, it did list a pub here called the Brewers Arms. I've got no record of the Brewers Arms. Well, in fact, I can find a mention of the Brewers Arms, a pub that was built in 1870 and closed very early in 1896, but it wasn't in this particular area. It was further on down Spon Lane on the left, but according to the graphic map, it was just around here somewhere. Just by these, where all these cars are parked. The Brewers Arms. And finally we've reached the pub called the Flower Pot. The Flower Pot has had a pub on that side since around the 1850s, but that's a rebuild, that one. I'm unsure of the date when that was rebuilt, but inside that was where inside there in the foyer is where you'll find this popular graphic map in a frame. This is Francis Street here, no longer a road that joins Spon Lane. To show you the Flower Pot here. Our next couple of pubs will be here on the left, just past Parliament Street. Parliament Street was also the site of a school. Spon Lane School was here on this corner of Parliament Street where all these new builds are. This is where all the roads have changed a lot now, because at the end of Spon Lane it would have carried on, but as you can see ahead, we've now got a very busy dual carriageway now called Kelvin Way, which around about here on this here near Walpole Walk would have been a pub called the Wagon and Horses that was there from 1868 to 1927, and another one would have been, according to the graphic map, it's got the Highland Tavern, but it's actually called the Highland Laddie. To my left here would have been a road called Neal Street, and it would have been a crossroads. This is Spon Lane ahead, but further on down there would have been Holt Street. Holt Street still exists, but Neal Street, it no longer exists here now, as Kelvin Way has effectively got rid of Neal Street. It would have been just about here. We'd have had the Highland Laddie on this corner, and that had been there from 1871 until 1956. You can see how crazy now this particular junction is. And where we're doing now, we're going to head over there. This is where Spon Lane now continues, to show you where we've just come from. It was around about, well, we got this place called Pearl Sweet here, and it was around about here we'd have had another pub called the Shoulder of Mutton that was there from the 1845 to 1959. Over there is Union Street, and it was the site of another couple of pubs, which now probably would be kind of in the middle of this road now. Here we'd have had the Greyhound from 1871 to 1956. And we would have had the Swan a bit further on down there in the middle of the road here, which would have been around the 1841 to the 1960s when the Swan finally disappeared. Okay, this is Grice Street. Not much of a street really, it's more of an industrial street. A lot of old factories up there. I did cover it in a Spon Lane video. It's around about here. There would have been a pub called the Stour Valley that was here till around about 1972. And it had been on this site since 1868. Look how busy this road is, eh? Another couple of pubs just over here where this motorway is now, where the MOT sign is just ahead of me. That would have been the Northwestern, which was a very old pub. That would have been, that was in 1868, but it was demolished around 1895. And underneath the motorway, where this white car is, and underneath there, over there, would have been the George from 1880 to 1912. The next one on the map would have been here, on the corner of Houghton Street. Before this huge motorway was built, I'm right under it now. Right underneath it now. It was here called the Cape Hotel on the corner of Houghton Street. And the Cape Hotel had been there since 1818 and was demolished around the 1960s, 1961. As we cross the canal, it's the canal that forms the border of West Bromwich and Smethwick. And now we're in the area of Smethwick, and so I needn't go any further, but according to the graphic map, there's another 3 pubs up here. There was the Royal Oak, which would have been around here somewhere, where Lister's was, where Lister's is, and further on, right at the top around the bend of the railway there would have been the Sponcroft, and the original Sponcroft was on the other side of the road. The building still stands on this side. It's now a Sikh temple. So actually it was rather difficult, wasn't it, to find those pubs. The problem I have is when I crossed the road from Spon Lane to what was the original Spon Lane, which now has this new road layout, it's kind of made it really difficult to explain where the Greyhound pub was and the White Swan. But as you can see, the layouts of the roads have changed dramatically from the days when Spon Lane used to be one continuous road right into Smethwick. But anyway, we'll leave it at that. If you like the video, hit the like button and also hit subscribe and hit the notification bell for new videos, and I'll see you on the next one.